I wake up every morning at 5:10 a.m., long before the city bothers opening its eyes. The same pale beige light spills through the blinds of my narrow studio apartment, cutting across the cracked paint like a reminder that nothing ever changes. I shuffle to the kitchen, grab the same chipped mug I've used for 6 years, and fill it with the same burnt-tasting black coffee that refuses to improve no matter how many brands I try. That bitter first sip is the only sharp thing in my morning, something that jolts me awake, just enough to start another day of mail routes, heavy bags, and the kind of silence that presses against your chest. My name is Adrian Hale, and I'll be 31 in 5 months. Though I often feel like someone twice that age. I don't have a girlfriend, or much money saved, or any close friends who'd notice if I disappeared for a week. I have a father who believes the word disappointment was invented specifically for me, and a mother who has learned to stay quiet when my father speaks. I've accepted my life the way some people accept chronic pain. It hurts, but you get used to it. The only part of my day that belongs to me is the 10-minute walk through Evergreen Park on my way to the community postal depot. Rain or shine, winter or summer, I cut through the winding stone path that curves beneath towering cedar trees. The air always smells of wet soil and dew, and the early morning fog hangs low enough to brush your shoulders. Sometimes, for a few seconds, I pretend I'm walking somewhere meaningful. Somewhere peaceful. Somewhere that isn't my life, and for the last 3 months, this quiet path hasn't only been mine. It has belonged to him. I noticed the boy the same way you notice a stray cat, quietly, gradually, without meaning to. He sat on the same old park bench every morning, curled in on himself, like he was trying to take up as little space as possible. A thin, brown-haired kid with bruised-looking eyes and clothes that clung to his small frame. He couldn't have been older than 13. At first I assumed he was waiting for someone. Maybe a parent finishing a night shift. But days passed. Then weeks. Then a month. And he never moved from that bench except to pace the park slowly, head down, arms wrapped around himself as though the world might blow him apart if he loosened his grip. His name, I eventually learned, was Jax Rowan, but I didn't learn that right away. At first, I only offered the occasional nod. Then a morning. Then I started leaving an extra granola bar in my pocket and slipping it onto the bench beside him when he pretended not to watch me. Eventually I began offering him $1 each day, something small, something to tell him someone had seen him. He would take it with both hands, look down, and whisper, "Thank you, Mr. Hale." There was something about the way he said my name, soft, careful, like it mattered, that cracked something open inside me. A piece of humanity I wasn't sure I still had. That morning started the same as always, drizzle tapping the sleeves of my jacket, fog curling under my collar, the smell of wet leaves plastered to the walkway. I spotted Jax from a distance. Same hoodie, same worn sneakers with the sole peeling from the front. But today he wasn't folded up. He sat stiffly, shoulders tense, eyes constantly scanning the trees around him. "Hey, Jax," I greeted, slowing to a stop. "Cold morning, huh?" He looked up, and the attempt at a smile flickered and died. His face was pale beneath the hood, and I noticed his hands trembled in a way they usually didn't. I pulled out my usual $1, rolled tight between my fingers. When I held it out, he hesitated before taking it. Then, unexpectedly, his small hand shot forward and gripped my sleeve. "Mr. Hale," he whispered, voice thin and shaking, "please, don't go home tonight." I blinked at him, unsure I heard correctly. "What? Why would you say that?" He swallowed hard. His eyes darted around the empty park, as if someone might be listening. "I saw a man," he said. "More than once. Watching your apartment building. He was there again last night. He had a red canister. I think it was gasoline. My chest tightened. My first instinct was to laugh nervously, to brush his fear away. But the look on his face, pure, unfiltered terror, shut down the laugh in my throat. "You're serious?" I said quietly. Jax nodded so hard his head slipped back. Rain matted his hair against his forehead. I didn't know what to do. "I saw him circle around your building. I saw him look up at your window. I heard him talking to someone on the phone the other night. I'm not sure what it meant, but I think he wants to burn it down." My stomach twisted. "Did you call someone?" He shook his head. "I only had your number." "Right? The one I gave him 3 weeks ago, when he'd had a fever and nowhere to go. If you ever need anything," I had said, never believing he would. I lowered myself, so we were eye level. "Jax, look at me." His eyes lifted slowly. "Are you absolutely sure this wasn't some other building? Some other man?" "Yes," he whispered. "I'm sure." I believed him. I didn't want to, but I did. Something in the way his voice cracked made the truth unmistakable. I squeezed his shoulder gently. "All right. I won't go home." He exhaled shakily, relief flooding his small features. The rest of the walk to the depot was a blur. I sorted mail wrong, dropped letters, ignored co-workers calling my name. I spent the entire day replaying Jax's words, hearing them echo in my ears. "Don't go home tonight." By 9:45 p.m. I was exhausted, physically and mentally. I stepped out of the postal depot into the cool night air, when my phone vibrated in my pocket. Unknown number. "Please don't go home tonight. I'm begging you." My heart pounded. I called immediately. "Mr. Hale." Jax's voice cracked on the other end. Wind howled around him. "Please, stay somewhere else. I'll explain everything tomorrow. Just please believe me." I believed him more than I believed anything. I found a cheap motel, peeling wallpaper, flickering lights, the scent of mold lingering in the carpet. I dropped onto the bed fully dressed, boots still on. I didn't sleep. Not even for a moment. 8:07 a.m. Seeking noise to cut through the silence, I turned on the TV. Breaking news, the anchor said. A fire destroyed an apartment building on Hawthorne Lane last night. Investigators believe. I didn't need to hear the rest. They showed the footage. My building. A black skeleton, windows shattered, roof collapsed. If I had gone home, I would be dead. The realization burned through me like ice. I didn't even grab my shoes before running into the street. I ran until my lungs felt like knives, until smoke filled the air, until the yellow caution tape came into view. And suddenly I knew, with absolute certainty, Jax Rowan had saved my life. I stood behind the police tape, panting, shivering, barefoot on the cold asphalt as if my bones had turned to glass. My apartment building was nothing more than a blackened frame now, a hollow outline against the smoky morning sky. Firefighters moved like shadows through the wreckage, spraying down steaming pockets of ruin. A medic tried to guide me to sit, but I couldn't hear anything over the echo of Jax's voice in my head. "Don't go home tonight." He saved me. He truly saved me. But why did he know? How did he know? There was only one person who held the answer, and he was probably still sitting on that freezing park bench, alone and trembling. I ran, barefoot, breathless, half-crazed, back through Evergreen Park. Dew soaked my feet. Gravel jabbed into my soles. None of it mattered. I just kept running until the giant cedar tree came into view, the one that draped its branches like an umbrella over the old wood and metal bench. And there he was. Just as I feared. Just as I hoped. Jax Rowan sat curled in the same spot. Hoodie soaked, eyes red, knees pulled tightly into his chest. His entire body shook, not only from cold, but from something deeper. Something like dread. I slowed as I approached him, heart aching at the sight. "Jax, I breathed out, his head jerked up, panic flashing across his features. But then, when he saw me standing there, alive, his face collapsed into relief. "You're okay," he whispered, almost disbelieving. "I wasn't sure. I didn't know if I warned you in time." The emotion in his voice hit me harder than the sight of my burning home. I lowered myself beside him. The bench was icy, raindrops clung to the edges like crystals. "You didn't just warn me in time," I said quietly. "You saved my life." He covered his face with his hands, shoulders shaking. I wasn't sure if he was crying or trying not to. "Jax," I said softly, "tell me everything. Please." It took several long breaths before he could speak. When he finally did, his voice was raw. "A man started coming to the park in the afternoons," he said, wiping his eyes with the back of his sleeve. "At first I didn't pay attention. I thought he was just another person who didn't like seeing a homeless kid around." He swallowed, voice cracking, but then I heard him talking on the phone. "He said your name." My blood froze. "He said they had the plan ready," Jax continued, glancing over his shoulder as if someone might jump out of the trees. "He said you wouldn't see it coming." I exhaled slowly, trying to steady my pulse. "So I started watching him," Jax said. "Every day. Every night I could. I know the streets better than most adults, so I followed him when he left the park." "You followed him?" I asked, stunned. "By yourself?" He nodded, shame flickering across his face. I didn't know what else to do. And then, one night he met another man at a diner. He reached into his backpack, a torn, faded thing with one broken strap, and pulled out an old phone with a cracked screen. "I took pictures," he said. "And I recorded part of what they said. I didn't understand all of it, but it sounded like they were planning to burn your place. Something about money. Something about making it look like an accident." He handed me the phone with shaking hands. I scrolled through the photos. At first, they were just blurry figures, dark coats, dim lights, rain-smeared windows. Then I saw the face of the man sitting across from the stranger. My heart stopped. It was Elias Hale. My older brother. The one who always reminded me I was the failure of the family. The one who inherited everything that mattered. The one who used to laugh when I talked about wanting to change my life. I stared at the photos so long the screen dimmed. Jax watched me nervously. "Do you know him?" "My brother," I said, voice barely audible. Shock rippled through his expression, followed by guilt. I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean to." "You did nothing wrong," I cut in. "Nothing. You did more for me than anyone in my own family ever has." He looked down at his hands again. "Keep going," I encouraged. "What else did you find?" He opened a recording. Muffled diner noises filled the air, silverware clinking, televisions buzzing, low conversations. Then came a voice I recognized instantly. "My brothers, make sure the place is empty," Elias said, calm and cold. "We need the payout. The trust is in his name, but when he dies, everything goes to me." My stomach turned. Another voice responded, deeper, unfamiliar. "And the fire?" "Tonight," my brother said. "No more delays." I pressed the phone to my chest, closing my eyes. "It's real," I whispered. "He really tried to kill me." Jax's lip trembled. "I'm sorry," he whispered again. "I didn't know who to tell. I thought if I told the police, they wouldn't believe me. And I didn't want them to take me away before I could warn you." My throat tightened. The kid had risked everything. More than I ever would have expected from anyone. I placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did the bravest thing I've ever seen," I said. "You saved my life. Don't ever apologize for that." For the first time since I met him, Jax looked at me with something like trust. From there, everything unfolded quickly. I hired a private investigator, who collected more footage, security camera clips showing the hired man purchasing gasoline, receipts tying him to my brother, audio from a meeting my father had with Elias about a trust fund I never knew existed. A $4 million one. One that transferred to my brother if I died without children. My father's voice, cold, sharp, was caught on tape saying, "Get it done. Make it look accidental." That was the final nail. The truth burned deeper than any fire could. The authorities took over, arrests were made, lawyers circled like vultures, courtrooms filled with whispers, and through it all, Jax stayed close, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Because he finally had someone who saw him. Someone who didn't walk past the bench like he was invisible. Months passed. The case resolved. I rebuilt my life from ash. And when I was finally able, I did the thing that felt more right than anything else. I adopted him. Now, when I walk through Evergreen Park, it's usually with Jax beside me, pointing out squirrels or skipping stones along the path. He doesn't tremble anymore. He doesn't keep his hood up. He doesn't glance behind him like danger lives in the trees. And every time we pass that old cedar tree, I slow down, place a quiet hand on his shoulder, and whisper the same words I whispered the day he saved me: "Thank you."